All right, we've reached the final day, lesson 10, day 5, graphing functional relationships. All right, so number 1, Lucy flies from New York to Florida to visit her aunt. So she starts off from New York, of course, and then goes to Florida. So at the beginning, we should have New York. At the end, we should have Florida. Okay, so this part here definitely should be Florida. This part here should have something to do with New York. All right, to visit her aunt. The graph shows Lucy's trip from her home in New York to her aunt's house in Florida. So, of course, she probably got on an airplane. Yep, she got on an airplane. She did a lot of things. All right, so this is her probably going on a trip in the car from her house to the airport. House to airport. Then she's probably waiting for her flight. Waits for flight. All right. Then again, her distance from home is suddenly very far, very shortly, or very far. So let's say she is now on the plane. All right, well, let's say she's on the plane in number 3. Let's say number 4, she's probably just waiting. I don't know what's happening. Maybe she's waiting on a taxi for a super long time. And then this last one, section 5, would be since Florida is the destination, maybe she is in Florida now and she's just waiting to go to her aunt's house. So section 5 would be her going to her aunt's house. To aunt's house in a car. Okay, so which part shows the ride from the airport in Florida to Lucy's aunt's house? That would have to be section 5, which is C. Okay, and we would know that because the aunt's house is the final destination, which appears in section V. That's in Florida, right? So yeah, there we go. It's actually very easy to look at like that, just kind of make it make sense. All right, number 2, the graph represents parts of Lenny's trip on different days, either from home to school or from school to home. Match the graphs to the descriptions of Lenny's trip shown to the right of the graphs. Next to each graph, enter the numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the description that best matches the graph. All right, so number 1, Lenny walks to the bus stop. So you know he won't be covering too much distance in a short amount of time, so it should be pretty gradual and low. So low distance. All right. Then he's waiting for the bus, and then he takes the bus to school. So when he takes the bus to school, that third part, the distance should be pretty great. Distance should increase in, kind of drastically, because he's on the bus now, and then when he's waiting, then we know we should have a horizontal line there. All right, and then which one of these, A, B, C, or D, matches that? All right, the one that I see that matches it, where he is walking to the bus stop, so he's at home, and then of course if he's walking to the bus stop to go to school, he should start at home. If he's starting at home, that means he starts at 0. All right, so he should start at 0. The only ones that start at 0 are B and C. And then he's going to wait a little bit, so we have a horizontal line, which both of them have it. So yep. And then finally, the distance should increase drastically from his house. So that should be B. Okay? Because he's going away from his house. The one that matches up to that is B. So number 1 is B. All right, then we have number 2, where Lenny waits for his father to pick him up after school. So that means he is at school first. So he is at school, which means it cannot be B or D, because B and D started him off at home. So it'll be either A or D. I'm sorry, B and C started him off at home. A and D started him off at school. Then his father drives him home. So if he's waiting Again, if he's waiting, that should be our horizontal line because he's not, the distance isn't changing, but time is still moving on. So we should have a horizontal line, and then his father's driving him home. So that means his distance from home is going to greatly decrease very fast. Okay? So distance decreases drastically. Okay, so there's only two things that's happening in number 2, where 1, we have a horizontal line because he's waiting, and then 2, a gradual or not gradual, a drastic decrease in the distance. The only one that has just 2 sections is D. So our number 2 goes down at D, which makes a lot of sense. All right, moving on, we have number 3. At the end of the school day, so at the end of the school day, he is at school. Lenny walks to a friend's house and stays there until he takes a bus home. So at the end of the school day, which means he's still at school, and you can clearly see there's only one that's left that has him starting off at school. Because again, if he's starting at school, his distance from home is pretty high up. The only one left that has a distance that's pretty high up is A. So he's at school, which means he is not at 0. He walks to a friend's house from school. So he's going to have a gradual decrease in the distance from home. And then he's going to stay there until he takes the bus home. So if he's staying there, he's just kind of sitting there playing or whatever he does with his friends. Maybe they're playing a game or something. So it's going to be a gradual decrease. Then there should be a horizontal line because he's just staying there. He's not decreasing or increasing the distance from home. And then finally, he's going to take a bus home. So that's going to be a quick decrease in the distance from home once he takes that bus home. So it should be that the distance will then decrease drastically because of that bus ride home. Okay, so 3 things should be happening. So of course we have a gradual decrease in the distance from home, which of course checks off for A. Then we have a horizontal line because he's just staying there, whatever he's doing with his, maybe they're doing homework, maybe they're playing a game, I don't know, but he's staying there with his friend for a little bit. So time is moving on, but distance is not changing. And then finally, he's going to quickly take a bus home. So that bus home is going to be a quick drastic decrease in the distance from home because he's taking that bus directly home. All right, and A matches up all of those 3 points. So that's number 3. And finally, number 4, Lenny starts to walk from home to the bus stop. So he starts to walk from home to the bus stop. So he starts off at home. So he starts off at home. Then it says he pauses to check his book bag for his binder. So if he pauses, that means he's stopped. So that's a horizontal line. So we'll say since he starts at home and he's walking, it should be a gradual increase in the distance from home. Then we have where he stopped to check his book bag for his binder. So there's a horizontal line because he stopped. So there's no change in the distance from home. So he's not increasing or decreasing. He just stopped there, but time is still moving. Finally, finally he realizes he forgot his binder at home and runs back home to get it. So he goes, oops, I put 2 again. So then he's going to go right back home, which means the distance will decrease. So it goes down. All right, so he goes from home, so he's going away from home, so the distance from home increases, so he goes up. Then he stops, but time is still moving on, so that's a horizontal line. Finally, he goes back home, so the distance from home decreases, so that's going downwards, and that matches exactly to situation 4. All right, moving on to number 3. Which of the following words could be used to describe the function within the interval labeled R? So looking at R and only R. We're not looking at anything else. So what's happening? So if we're looking at this section, we can see that overall, from left to right, for the lack of a better word, the line is increasing. The little squiggly line is increasing, it's going upwards. So since it's going upwards, we say it's increasing. But you can also say, of course, since it's increasing, it can't be decreasing at the same time. And this isn't a line. A line is straight, okay? And this is not straight. So it's definitely not linear. And if it's not linear, that automatically makes it non-linear. All right, that's it for number 3. And finally, number 4. Think about a trip that you've taken or a route that you travel often. Sketch a graph of the trip or route and write a description. So I'm going to leave this one to you guys because answers will definitely be varying. Just make sure that you draw out your description of your route or your trip. Just make sure you have these 2 things. So you should have your time that it takes you to go this route, and let's just compare it to the distance from home. Just like we've seen all throughout the lesson. All right, be sure and be ready that you've completed this and you're ready to review it with either your partner, your teacher, or your class. Thank you.